This week's announcement about the Ontario Music Fund. And I'll tell you what's music to the ears of Ontario craft brewers in this province is planned changes for how we sell beer and wine in Ontario. But there is increasing concern amongst the little guys that once again, when the changes are decided, they will be left out. To talk about that is Peter Bulut from Great Lakes Brewery. Appreciate you coming in. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
The craft brewers this week said what? They want what from the government?
We said that we want the ability to have another store. So in Ontario, at your manufacturing facility, you can have a retail store. What we're saying is we'd like to have another retail store and be able to sell each other's beers in those two stores in our fridges.
Now this is where I get a little confused here, because you are competitors, and I know you're all small guys and you think that if the tide goes up everybody floats, but you are saying, oh, I'm going to sell Steam Whistle or whatever other microbrew might be out there?
Love to. The Ontario market, we collectively, 150 Ontario brewers, have only 4% of the market. Yet we employ over 30% of the jobs. So we're all excited for this tide together. We are holding hands, singing Kumbaya. We are, you know, yeah. we are spiritually brothers.
But how, I mean, considering that some of these craft brewers, I mean, I understand that you guys have been around for some time, but some are very, very small, and I don't think it's realistic to believe that you could have the capital to be able to open a second retail store.
Maybe not on your own, but with a few other brewers. We're not sure exactly how this is going to play out, so perhaps a few of the brewers can get together and open a second store or even a third store.
This week was Ontario Craft Brew Night at Queen's Park, so an opportunity for myself and a number of other journalists to talk to a lot of the brew makers. And what I found really interesting is that the concern now is not so much about the beer store, which it has been in the past, the fact that you don't think your product is being displayed as well as it should be. But now that the government's talking about putting beer and wine into grocery stores, you're more worried about Gale and Weston.
Yeah, as they say, the devil is always in the details, and we are concerned if the grocery stores are allowed to sell beer. What does that mean for the big, medium, and small of the small brewers? And obviously there's a lot of fear about listing fees, payment terms, all this stuff that you sort of hear that happens in that retail chain. But still our primary ask is to help fix the beer store. It is a great system that just needs some revamping.
The beer store will say, well, they have said, listen, you can buy in with their proposal, which most craft brewers have said is a Hail Mary and too late.
Yes, that was a tough one to really understand. It at first seemed like a good option. For some small guys, they took advantage. You know, they'd offered 5 free listings, which is great. But the problem is you get those listings, when's it going to move? Because nobody can see it or touch it, taste it, talk about it.
Because it's just on a wall somewhere in a kind of mid-Soviet era style store.
Totally. It's a very small label, very unlike LCBO, where it's open for consumers to browse, speak with the beer consultants, and so on.
But the complaints I heard about the LCBO were almost more numerous in terms of being able to get your product in there.
Well, it's getting challenging now. There's almost a brewery opening every week, and everybody's knocking on LCBO's door to get a general list. And general lists now are getting harder to come by because there is only so much shelf space in the craft section. But I know they're anxious to get as many of these guys listed, and that as they build new stores, that section is growing, and they're actually doing walk-in fridges now. So a lot of guys will get these listings coming up.
I mean, full disclosure, I love Ontario craft beer, and I think it's a great market. But when you start talking about the fact that you are really only 3% of sales overall, why should you have the right to open your own standalone retail stores?
Why should 3 foreign-owned companies have the right to hold 440 licenses to do that? That's really the question. I mean, we're really not asking for much, and we're asking to keep that system in place, but let's have some help around fixing it, opening up taking the walls down, letting people peruse and shop. It's all about the consumer. And our growth, you know, is going to mean huge jobs in Ontario, and that is probably the biggest thing. Not only, you know, we're going to prosper, there's going to be tons of opening, and we're not talking about Toronto, we're talking about the province. All these little towns are going to open breweries up, they're going to employ local people, and everybody's going to reap the benefits of this.
You look at the British Columbia market, which is Pacific Northwest, a little more mature in terms of craft brewing. What percentage do they have?
They have anywhere from Alberta to BC, anywhere from 8 to 12% of the market. And it is really just because of the retail system.
So just that point of access means that you could maybe triple your percentage in terms of sales?
Absolutely.
How concerned are you that when this all comes through, that really the government is, I mean, they're looking for money here. They're looking to try and pay down that debt, that at the end of the day, that's going to be the issue and not accessibility to the small guys?
But, you know, with our, how we say, we're romantically inefficient. So we will create a ton of jobs. And from that's going to be revenue stream for the government. Not only that, but our increased revenues mean more taxes through our provincial tax that we have to pay as beer makers. And the spin-off, you know, purchasing more raw materials, more jobs. It's not just, you know, the jobs in the brewery. It's the spin-off of everything that we're purchasing to make the brewery happen, the energy that we're consuming. It's all positive.
All right. Free product placement. Go. What do you got?
Here is our Canuck Pale Ale, which is a West Coast Pale Ale, and our Pompous Ass, which is a great segue.
This is a family show.
Into the...
No. So the Pompous A is a pale ale. So which one is the hoppier? Because people love the hoppy beers these days.
Yes, that's Canuck.
That's the Canuck.
Yep.
That's the one that's going to make you just pucker right up.
It won't make you pucker from bitterness. It's very floral, very aromatic, great with food and cheese and burgers. And as I was telling you before, Great Lakes Brewery 2013 and 2014 Canadian Brewery of the Year.
You are singing my song. Peter Bulut, the Chief Brewing Officer from Great Lakes Brewery and a Ontario Craft Beer Board member. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Alan.
Just ahead, we're going to double down on hydro bills. First up, threats by hydro